Welcome everybody. This is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me again today is Gavin from Dublin, Ireland. And we did an interview together back on July 6th, I think it was. And July 6th. And Gavin is from Dublin, Ireland, and he's an explorer of consciousness and reality, seeking understanding and power. He has a website. It's called Spontaneous Evolution, so that's spontaneous-evolution.com. He's offered what is called a queen maker and energy healing. He was initiated in the shamanic ceremony under our mother goddess to work with women, and queens are one type who are being guided to him, who are hybrids on the planet. The purpose of his work is to help release trapped trauma that blocks them from their purpose. And his success perhaps is evidenced by testimonies such as this one from Laura. Quote, "To have met someone from my own tribe, and that's how it feels, who honors me with his presence and helps me expand not only my consciousness but my self-worth as a woman has been a rare gift," unquote. So he does his work via phone and also through WhatsApp. And Gavin and I met via YouTube back in February of 2017. We had several exchanges and conversations leading up to this momentous day. And it's I think there's been a lot of exchanges between us where we kind of discovered that this was meant to be. Like there was a formula in the making behind the scenes where Gavin's helping me, I'm helping him, and so it feels very symbiotic to me. So thanks for joining me, Gavin.
Thanks, Denny. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it didn't feel like anything that needed to be rushed. You know, I suppose initially I kind of, when I went through what I've gone through, the ceremonies and stuff and the initiation, I kind of thought I have to write articles and I have to talk to people and all that then started to die down. And now more and more I kind of allow things to just take their own flow, you know, their own time, that there's no rush to force it, you know. And I think this the second interview with you. There's no rush, you know. It's at times I do have to remind myself, but I do believe that everything is perfect, you know. It's all unfolding in its own time. And that doesn't mean we don't need to do anything. It just means there's nothing we need to push or force or try to get into place.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. I decided, I contacted you about the Queen work because I think since we last spoke, I felt it was after that interview really that I felt ready to discuss it in more detail publicly. You know, I have in articles on the website and obviously in person with people that I work with, I would give them more information bit by bit. But I don't know, I just felt moved to discuss all of it, you know, or a lot of it, and see where that goes.
Okay.
You know. So about over the last few years, women started to enter my life through, you know, in person, online, on Twitter, and, you know, social media, and they were women that I just knew. You know, they were familiar to me. I knew their dynamic, or I knew their energy, and you know, at times I found myself kind of guiding them or really understanding their state or their challenge, you know, if they were depressed or addictive or struggling. Because I've had a life of that myself, so I'm familiar with that. But this isn't every woman. It was some of them that were just familiar, and I was in a 10-year relationship and that was drawing to a close. So I wondered, you know, are these my next girlfriend? You know, I kind of thought, why is this person being presented and they're so familiar, as you do. And then in a shamanic ceremony last October. I had done a number of ayahuasca ceremonies before that, and I had released a lot of very uh, they were all demonic ceremonies. They were all satanic. I don't mean I was in satanic ceremonies. I mean it was all a release of that kind of
Right.
energy. I faced a lot of very aggressive and dark entities and purged, to a point that I was terrified of every ceremony I went into. Terrified. And but I knew I had to be there. I knew there was a purpose in it. I knew it was beneficial. So in this ceremony, I found myself in a room with 5 men and 5 women and 2 female facilitators. And very quickly, this was LSD. This wasn't ayahuasca. And it was with a shaman who's worked with various medicines for about 25 years. And there's not many women. I have since I would be aware that I was sent to this group to work, and to this person. So someone out of a phone book, or there's a lot of tourism in medicine ceremonies now, which I would be very wary of. But I'm going off track. Very quickly, I was aware of the feminine energy in my journey in that room, and the burden. It was very uncomfortable. It was the burden of womankind, of rape, abuse, slavery, of raising children, of trying to protect children, of trying to stay alive. Basically, we live in we're in the Western world, in possibly the safest time, maybe, I don't know, on this planet for women, and for men in a lot of places. So it was really shown to me the lives that women have had to live, and still do in some parts of the world today, to be safe. To manipulate men, to use their sexuality, or use whatever skills you have to stay alive, or to stay safe, or to feed your children. And then on top of that, who knows what's going to happen. So that was a really draining experience, really challenging experience. And as the night progressed, I found myself in a divine feminine sacred space, sacred space in a ceremony. And I don't physically mean in the room I was in, I mean on my journey. And I was very aware that this was a sacred space. This was not a place where men wandered in or chose to go. So I felt very humbled and very respectful to be there. It took me months really to digest and absorb why I was there, or what this place was, or what the purpose, and I'm still learning. But in a later ceremony, I realized, or I was shown, that I was, and I still don't fully understand this, that I was adopted by a tribe of warrior women. I think adopted might be the wrong word, but I'm under the protection of, and I work with, and I've gone into, when this has been revealed to me, there's been a lot of grief and sadness, because of my own perception of women in this life and in previous lives, and the things I've done that are locked within, the release of guilt and remorse and all that stuff of making peace. So I was told in that ceremony that I am a lighthouse, that I shine my light so others can steer themselves away from rocks. And so I don't direct people away. I shine my light. I'm not telling people how to live. I was also told I'm a queen maker. And I had heard the term kingmaker before, I think it's an old English term. And a lot of this happened bit by bit in the months afterwards in my own meditations. in further ceremonies, and from other people, bit by bit, there was a drip feed of filling in the blanks of who I am and what I'm doing here. And I went through a period initially when I was told this, I thought, I can't do this. I'll abuse this position. I'm human. I'm flawed. And, I was told very gently, you will. And that's okay. That this is part of the growth. Now, that's not a license to abuse the situation.
No, I understand.
It's just to be gentle, and that this is a learning experience. And, I went through a few weeks of thinking I was given a job and I can't do the job. And gradually I realized, no, I trained for this job long before I entered this lifetime. And I contracted and agreed to do this work. So what little I know now is I know nothing now. I know snippets. And most of what I do comes through me. I'm a channeler, I'm a conduit, a representative. So in a sense, it's not up to my conscious mind. There's a lot more going on than I can perceive. So I thought, okay, I'll test what I've been told. And I was also told that women will be sent to you. And about, I think, 2 weeks after that ceremony, I met a woman for a date. And, we'd been texting back and forth, and it kind of dropped off. I hadn't met her. And then I got a text from her out of nowhere saying, we should meet this week. And I thought, oh, great. I'm going on a date. And I got dressed up, and we went for coffee, and I met her. And I said, we sat down, and I said, why did you change your mind, or why did you want to meet me? And she said, she looked me dead in the eyes, and she said, I felt that you're a master and that you have a message for me. I burst out laughing. I thought this is a joke. And then I realized the ceremony a week or 2 weeks beforehand, and I thought, okay, well, let's see what happens. So I began talking to her, and as I talked, I knew things about her again. I knew where she was in her journey. I knew how to help her to be grounded and to be more at peace. She was close to emigration. She didn't know what country she wanted to live. There was a lot of chaos going on. And towards the end of that, I held her hand. And as I held her hand, I got guidance for herself, and I got guidance for my role with her. And that was that. And that's how it really began. And since that, I have found that even some women that would watch a video or on my channel, they might just comment. There's been a few that they just comment. They say, great video, and that, your videos really resonate with me, or something like that. And I would usually respond and say, maybe you should go and just read the Queen Maker page, or read something and just see, does this resonate with you? And those people, I would say, have chosen to work with me or have been guided to me, and it has led, there has been some great experiences as a result of that. But I'll stop now, and I'll let you respond. But I do really feel that, and I don't want to overdo this either, because I could be wrong, but I do really feel that this is not for everyone. What I'm talking about is not, and I don't mean that in an elitist sense. I mean it's that some people are really ready, and they do one session with me, and things change very quickly. And there has been very few, but some have not been ready. And I do still believe work occurs, but I liken to see it as being a seed sown, that perhaps we worked, we connected, something shifted in them, and then they carry on with their journey. I'll say as well that, my understanding is that, and all of this could be wrong, but that the queens they're hybrids. They're part human and part Palladian or star system, and that they don't need to learn anything or to necessarily do anything. I'm seeing more and more they hesitate to say they need to do anything. It's about being. It's as Dolores Cannon says, it's a resonance. They're beacons. They're lighthouses. So It's about just being grounded, and I help to balance their masculine and feminine energy, which just allows them to emanate and to be present. And that energy in itself will lift up, people around them or in their community and so on.
Yeah. Well, I kind of, when I first found out about you and I checked out some stuff, I personally was pretty excited about it just because I've been guided, compelled, whatever. I don't know where to put this, but I need to be a little bit more, probably a little bit more assertive about really where I do think things come from in my life, and if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But I think I am being divinely guided. I'm being divinely guided to certain people to interview, etc. And then pretty early on, and when I was developing my YouTube channel, was this whole idea that in order for the planet to heal, the goddess energy needed to be reintroduced. And people who've been following me are pretty sick of hearing me say that all the time. But I say it all the time, and I probably will continue to say it because it's just something that's kind of in my head, it's in my heart, and I don't think without kind of a widespread acknowledgement of that, that it's rational to expect much progress, right? I don't think that this is going to be a healing that's going to occur on the planet is not going to continue under the same paradigm that we've been all subjected to, which is the male paradigm, which is a very invasive, pervasive construct that overlies everything in our culture. And it's not just in the Western world, it's everywhere. In some places it's much worse than what most of us Western culture people see. And so that that goddess energy, when I talk about all of that changing in very dramatic ways, in ways that are kind of like uncomfortable and shocking, just because we are so conditioned to having the male be first, the male being prominent, everything being defined in malefic terms or the male paradigm terms. And so whenever I encounter something that's kind of like, oh, this is the goddess energy or that, then I get all, I get lit up and I go, okay, that's where we want to go. That's what we want to promote. That's what we want to share. So that's kind of like, that's what I get from when you talk. I'm very interested. My energy goes up, and I go, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this because this is very much in alignment with what I feel, and what I believe now.
I do think that my perception of the masculine energy is changing as well, in that I do believe everything is perfect. I have a story of who I am or who I think I am, and it will answer that question, or it will give more of my understanding of the masculine energy taking over. So my understanding is, of course, all of this could be wrong. My understanding is that I am Palladian, or I am one of those star systems, that I went through the mystery schools in ancient Egypt. To what degree or level, I have no idea. And I worked or achieved or attained whatever level of consciousness was required. And we knew that the masculine energy would take over. So many higher beings chose to leave the planet and took our technology with us, because obviously it would be used destructively. But none of this was wrong. This is consciousness exploring different avenues, the way we explore golf and get bored with it, and board games and get bored with it, and something else. And we maybe go through periods of our lives. I'm an addict, I'm sober, so I was a drug addict, I was an alcoholic. I explored that, I got complete with that. I moved on from it. It's not wrong or good or bad. It's just an experience. So we knew if there's no such thing as time, and if time in a linear sense, even if you want to go that way, because I don't fully understand it either, it is just a blink of an eye. If we're been here for hundreds of thousands of years, 5, 6, 7,000 years is the blink of it's nothing. So we knew that the masculine energy would flesh out and would explore the planet and explore all the nastiness and the dark and all the stuff that that energy wants to get its teeth into.
Yeah, and there was a lot of good in that too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not all badness.
Yeah, right.
So we knew that would expand and explore.
Right.
And we also knew that the divine feminine would need to be reintroduced when the planet was just saturated in where we find ourselves today. And my understanding is that I volunteered, along with other men or beings, I don't know how many or who, that I volunteered to help reintroduce the divine feminine. So part of my journey was to stay here, to remain here for the last 5, 6, 7,000 years. Memory switched off, as same as everyone else, be a soldier, be an abuser, die disease, die young, be rich, be poor, all of that stuff, and basically accumulate experiences as a human, male and female, both as victim and perpetrator. And I have been shown some of the things that I did, not in graphic detail, but I'm aware of contracts of me being an abuser, being abused, and, be that rape or paedophilia, all the nastiness. And I want to state none of that has happened, thank God, in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. So, but I was party to all of that. Mm-hmm. And I was very hesitant to say that to people. I still am in the. I'm not going to say that to people in the real world, but yeah. I trust that the right minds are guided to hear this and can right. understand this. Right. And it's not, as I said to you before, it's not that I'm justifying any of these practices or acts. It's that to fully explore and experience and be of use to people, to have the experience and wisdom, we need to fully encompass and explore what it is to be a man. And that's not all the nice things, the creative, the helper, the father, the good father, the builder, the whatever. It's being the soldier and the killer and all the nastiness, and then making peace with that. So, I liken it to if you go to college or university for 5 years and you work in McDonald's and people say, what are you doing in McDonald's? You say, well, I'm studying to be a doctor, to be whatever, and it makes perfect sense. So I did that. I went and I did all these nasty, dark things in the knowing that I would arrive in this lifetime. And now I'm in a period where I'm lucky that it's purposeful for me to know who I am, or degrees of who I am and why I'm here. And the last year and a half has been really about purging and facing, as Jung talks about, facing the shadow. A lot of my work is about facing demons, be them reptilian, be them all sorts of ugly, and just making peace with them within me and the contracts I had with them, thanking them for their work, releasing them. The time is up. Some don't want to go so easily, but making peace, and I've seen that I am more useful to people. I'm a clearer channel the more I do this. So my point is, I suppose, that yes, the masculine energy took over, and we've arrived with Donald Trump and however many wars and all this stuff, but that's okay. That's okay. People are on their journey, and they're getting complete whatever it is that they need to get complete with. It's not for me. I try not to judge them as being right or wrong or good or bad or whatever. They're on their journey. So it's up to me, for those who are guided to me, to work with them. Or if I feel charged by Trump or whoever it is, that charge is within me, and I need to make peace with that within myself rather than try to change them. So I don't know if that adds a little bit more. No,
that's good. That's great perspective.
Sorry, go ahead.
So one of the things that I was kind of getting enthusiastic about this week is because I have you as an interview subject, and I have another person later who kind of has a philosophy that's kind of on the other side. So you talk about, the article you wrote, which I recommend to people, is called "There Is No Spoon." I think it's 4 parts, 4-part article.
I think it's three
Three
parts.
parts, three parts,
Yeah,
and it's actually as an MP3 file too. You can actually
that's right.
download
Yeah.
it and listen to it if you don't have time to watch the video, which is what I did, and because I'd read it and then I wanted to listen to it, so I listened to it,
Mm.
and it's a great explanation of what you explained. So if somebody wants to hear that again, I would recommend that. But anyway, so there's a woman that I'm going to interview who talks about that, because she's been challenged with this philosophy, like everything is us, everything is a reflection of us, or we create our reality. And she has a different take on it from her experiences, is that we really are a veiled and manipulated species, and that there is an other. And so she really approaches it from a different perspective. And she's a mother, and she's an what they call SSP experiencer, right? With quite a history of analysis and helping other people, da 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 da. So I just thought it was really cool, because this week we're going to get a really good, well thought out explanation of those two different points of view. And I'm always thinking, like, is it really true that one is necessarily true and the other one's not, or are these two different ways of looking at the same thing, neither one of them being more valid than the other? And I was saying, I don't have an answer for that question, and I'm not sure that I need to have an answer for that question. But I'm so happy to be able to host people who can explain those views well in a non-threatening and non-proselytizing manner. Like you were saying, your work is not for everybody.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't think it's one or the other. I think she's right. I think I'm right. I think everyone is right. Right's the wrong way of putting it.
Yeah,
but
I know.
It's whatever resonates with you, or you gravitate towards that work. It's all good. It's all part of we need to get complete with it. So some people might work with me and then move on to her, or vice versa. Or there's no wrong.
Right.
And I would say as well that, I don't know everything. In a month's time, you might interview me, and I might say, Denny, what I said in that last interview, a lot of it's nonsense, or I was incorrect. I try, to remember that it the more we believe, the more limited we are. We're kind of closing the door on things to unfold, and it is a case of, the more insights that we get, the more we realize how little we know. Now for me, I just find that my message is true to me, that my higher self engaged with and contracted with these things, these other beings. And at times I'm trying to move even away from using the word demon or evil or any of that stuff, because it's like I might have said the last time, if you walk through a swamp of crocodiles, the crocodiles will try and eat you. They're not evil, they're just crocodiles. That's what they do. So lower vibrationary beings do lower vibrationary things. They're not evil or bad. That's what they do. And higher vibrationary beings do higher vibration. And we learn from each other. I watched King Arthur last night. I'm doing a video on Guy Ritchie that I haven't had time to finally, but it will be released very soon. But I watched King Arthur last night, and at the end, I don't want to give away the ending, but the sword and the stone and all the rest of it. And he battles a demon. And he says at the end of it, you created me. And he's completely at peace. And he says, you created me. That I am who I am because of you. And that's it. The warrior cannot become a warrior without, at some point, without killing people, without facing this darkness, without doing dark things and being killed and being cut and hacked to pieces, and going through all of that and gradually learning to be a warrior, to be peaceful. So these beings teach us. They force us to be, if it is a journey of a warrior to face the shadow and to face this darkness. And we've come through a period, in the kind of 90s that was self-help was all very cleaned up and shiny. And there are people who say, well, you don't have to face the shadow and you don't have to face demons and go into darkness, and you can create your reality as lovely and rosy, and that's fair enough. That's not my experience. And I know there are other people out there who'll hear this and who'll say, yeah, it's not my experience either. And it's not that there's anything wrong with us, and it's not that we indulge in the darkness. It's just that our path is through this route. Yeah. And there is wisdom in that, and there is courage. Right. We grow from this. Yeah. It's just an experience to be stronger, to be greater. So, to go back to the journey of who I am, or who I think I am, is that to be abusive and to be abused means that when you come out the other side of it, when I work with women, I can often intuitively tell, I can read or see, be it sexual trauma or abuse, in their aura, in their being. And as a result of my own past, not in this life, thank God, but I can empathize with that, and I can understand it because I lived it, because I was the perpetrator and the victim, and I know it. I recognize it. So
very different than reading about it.
Exactly, yeah. I went through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, for years, and I always found that if I was talking about drinking, I wanted to talk to an alcoholic, sober alcoholic. I didn't want to talk to someone who had a certificate or a degree, and because if they weren't an alcoholic, they didn't know what it was like. They didn't know that craving or that addiction or that dysfunction. So it's the same, I feel now, is that I'm purposeful with people because I've been there and I've gone through it. And I don't always know why people are sent to me or what their stuff is. And I tend to just kind of leave that whatever happens in the session is meant to happen in the session. Right. Can I just say one more thing, is that a question you may have asked me, and people do ask me at times who are unsure of me, would say, well, why a man working with the divine feminine?
Right.
And it's a good question. We are man and woman. Each of us has a masculine side and a feminine side, and only recently have I begun to do this queen work, divine feminine work, with men. And I don't mean homosexual men or just men. Anyone who sometimes they book a session for an intuit session or a healing session, and it doesn't feel right. It feels that this is what they need to be doing. So I would do it. It would take its own course. But originally it was women, and the traits I would generally see would be an overactive intellect, which is masculine energy. Maybe a lot of letters after their name, read a lot of books, can regurgitate a lot of facts and figures and stats. And sometimes that's a barrier. I have that too. Thankfully it's quietened down, but it's so if someone tries to connect to your heart or your intuition, the mind jumps in with Jung said this, and the higher self is this, and they get all this self-help information or spirituality information, and it's like it's a wall.
Yeah.
Like it's a wall of information. But
can I interrupt? When anybody talks about that, and I can identify with that too, just like you can. I think about I think it was in the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, Nowhere Man. The little snippet that they had, Nowhere Man? Did you ever see that? I don't remember it. Oh God, you got to see that.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's a song called Nowhere Man that the Beatles did, and they had an animation that went with that. And he was this little gnomish guy who had a huge library, and he could type 250 words a minute, and he could just spout off all these facts and everything. But he had no friends, no heart, no life. But he was just this wealth of wonderful information, and he was very happy, buried in all of that. But he was called the Nowhere Man.
Yeah. That's it. That's
what it reminds me of when you talk about that. That's my point of identification when everybody talks about like what you just said. I see that little man spinning around, that little cartoon guy spinning around from the Beatles. Anyway, I just had to throw that in there. I'll put it in the interview.
I've like a lot of these women, the two traits would be that intellect that is just a lot of information,
Like a wall.
over analysis, yeah, a
Yeah.
wall of protection, because we needed it and they needed it to survive. Women, our generation is like independence, feminism, but we're interdependent beings. We need to be able to gel and mix with the other sex and with our own kind, our own sex, and so on, and learn from that, and be open, and be open at the heart, and be fluid with that. So the independence has gone too far. We now have women who maybe can't maintain a relationship, who have trauma, be it from this life or previous life, around men, which is understandable, that all that stuff they've gone through and carried with them. And now they're in the Western world. You hold down a job and maybe you've got your own house and you're quite successful, but there's a femininity that's trying to come through, of perhaps having children or just intimacy with a man, safety, and being a woman. And I'm not going to put words on what that means, but women know, and men know what's natural to be with a woman, which society might not approve of or might deem politically incorrect and all that kind of stuff. So the two main things would be relationships with men can tend to be dysfunctional or difficult, and the overactive intellect. So my role as a man, I liken it to, if you're afraid of flying and you do work on flying, at some point you've got to get in a plane. You can't say I'm cured from flying, but I'm never flying again. It doesn't really. So there's issues with men that need to be addressed and released. And my role is to be, as much as I can, to be that lighthouse. I was told that I am a king, that I am king energy, and I am a teacher. That's my purpose in this life. But, I... In a holotropic breathwork ceremony about a month ago, I went through an amazing experience, and I was given my sword. I was granted my sword, and I realized then, in the very first thing I was told in an ayahuasca ceremony was, "You are a warrior." And I thought, "Oh, great, I'm a warrior." And then I faced some stuff. So I was only granted my sword, a few weeks back. So I realized, okay, I'm a king, but you've got to earn back the crown. You've got to earn that energy and respect. So that's my role, is to try to stay solid and cut through, pardon my French, but cut through the bullshit of, a woman or any person working with you can use seduction, can use the intellect, can use any means to try to dismiss the work and say, I don't need this, and carry on in life. So my role is to keep them on track and to be direct and try and smash any ego ideas of what's going on. And they can take it or leave it then.
You're right.
But it's to be, I'm not doing anyone any favors by pandering to their ego of what they think is unfolding. So it's to be a higher man, is to be someone who's trustworthy and assertive and respectful and doesn't want anything. The work that I do does result in men and women becoming, entering into vulnerable spaces of maybe divulging where they are, or what went on, or what's going on, or even in the healing sessions that they can, trauma can come up, or tears can come up, or who knows. So it's to be a safe space, and be respectful and protecting, and for them to gradually lower that wall, the wall around the heart and that guard, to work with the man who is not looking for anything. I'm not looking for sex. I'm not looking for money, or they pay for a session, but I'm not manipulating or abusive. Right. So now, it's not necessarily that they're consciously carrying that to me, but it's in the blueprint of that history we talked about. Right. So, to finish up, it's encountering that higher male energy allows them on other levels to lower their guard, and it's in lowering the guard that the divine feminine comes through, when it's safe. The divine feminine ain't going to come through if there's a threat. And my understanding is that these women have been burned at the stake, taught as, as witches, or you learn to keep, as people like us did, in previous lives or even in our youth, stay quiet. Don't talk about these things. You'll get bullied, you'll get beaten up, you'll get abused, disrespected, whatever.
There's a Russian saying, the tallest grass gets cut first.
But now I think we're in a time where that tall grass, in the right environment, can grow and we can flourish.
Absolutely. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, to stop talking about this in a closet somewhere or over coffee where no one's listening in. The whole idea of this is to get it out there so people can feel more comfortable having these kinds of conversations, and with some meaning and some heart behind it, rather than just dismissing it or being flippant about it. Because, I try not to take myself seriously, but I take the job pretty seriously. And I think that idea, when I've been able to adhere to it, has served me well.
Oh yeah, I can relate. I feel that the work that I do, like I'm human. I'm male. I mess up. I do stupid things. I say stupid things. Do things I regret. That's life. I'm not. Perhaps I have been a master, but I have to re-earn that title or that state. So, but I do feel that in the work, I am in service to people who come to me to work.
Yeah.
I serve them. That's the way I view it. And I work under our Mother Goddess. I work with divine beings, divine feminine beings. So I don't for a second think that I'm running the show here. Right. I don't have a clue what's going on. I just show up and we see what happens.
Right. But that speaks well to that idea. Like, it's okay to take the work seriously. Just be careful that you're not taking yourself too seriously. And if you kind of keep that in your mind, it's helpful for navigating. Kind of keeps you out of the ditch.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose I do. I need to be reminded of the not taking myself too seriously, because I can be extremely intense on figuring things out and what's going on. But the work I do feel, and I often would say it in a session to my higher self and to the Mother Goddess, that I'm honored to be a part of this, and I just feel, and I've seen how purposeful it is, and what's going on in the world, that these are lighthouses, these are beacons of light that are. There's one woman who, I won't tell you her name, who her sister has cancer, and she came over to Ireland to live with the sister and to work with the sister, and we did a couple of sessions together, and it really came through for me that all her role was just to be grounded and in the house and just be present and cook and clean or help. So rather than feeling I have to cure my sister. And I remember, a couple of days after, I got a message from her, and she said, what have you done? And I thought, oh no, I thought, what's happened? And she said, in a good way, what have you done? That everyone changed. The dynamic in the house changed. The energy changed. People were calmer. There was more of a flow. And it was just, in my understanding, that she was just centered. She was grounded now. She was plugged in. And that energy emanates and affects people and influences people. So, we often do think we have to get stuck in and have to say the right thing and do the right thing. And that's not really always the case. It's just like being in spirit, being grounded, being still, not thinking at all, be present and see what happens. Take that risk and see what unfolds. And that in itself, the guidance or the energy comes through that,
Wow. This is better than last time.
Oh. Okay.
It is. Or maybe it's just now.
Can I say two things?
Of course.
One is like, who is this work for? and the other is what happens in it. The who is it for? I really just come back to whoever it resonates with. You know, like people might turn up and say I have back pain or a problem with my boyfriend or whatever, and I don't have any control over what happens. There's a woman who started coming to me very recently, and she had, I don't remember the term, but it was like I can never remember the term. It was very, very bad acne, like
Oh,
painful, kind of
yeah.
infected on her face, her neck, and her chest. And now she hadn't mentioned that to me. She just felt we needed to do work, so we did one session. And I'd say within 2 or 3 days, I got a message from her. The responses I think are actually on the website on the testimonials. I put them up, but she said that she had this, and I hadn't known this, but that it was less inflamed than it had been in a year. The anger, she said, had gone out of it. Things had just died down. And I think after about 2 more sessions, it pretty much disappeared.
Wow.
So I didn't concentrate on that, or I feel that the energy goes where it needs to go, what's paramount at that moment.
Right.
And I would feel that that skin was just a byproduct of whatever else needed to be released. I don't think that her higher self decided we need to clear your skin up. I think it was darker, deeper stuff that needed to be released. Increasingly in the last few weeks, I don't do my sessions on camera, but I will start to do my sessions on camera in time.
Mm-hmm.
I've started to purge and in some cases vomit. I'd be covered in sweat. So you would see what videos like online of people channeling I would be heaving, I would be perhaps growling or moaning and releasing whatever shared energy that we are holding or whatever is coming out. And in that there would be insights, and there might be vomit, and there might be who knows what happens. But
so Gavin, how do you protect yourself? If you're forming such a close connection, you're having such dramatic bodily reactions, how is it that you protect yourself? Or is that something that's...
I would do a couple of things, but I would wrap myself, my color, if you like, of my light family is like an electric blue light. That's what I would see in a lot of ceremonies or breath work, and I would know that as my family, my beings from a human. Ooh, blue light, you know. So I would wrap myself in an imaginary electric blue cloak and a blue pyramid. But I would also say that now I might regret this or I might be wrong, but I feel now that we are great beings. We are gods, and that nothing can engage with me or attach to me or feed off me without my higher self say so. You know, there is a lot going around of like being attacked and parasites and all that, and I bought into that. And maybe it is true for some people, and maybe it is true for me, and I'll learn more about it. But at the moment and in the last few months, it doesn't resonate with me. Mm-hmm. That I engaged with these beings, I contracted with them. So I would also feel that in that moment that I would be aware of the presence of our Mother Goddess, and in some cases a varying degree of divine feminine beings. I later realized that when I do a session that we go to that sacred space that I was initiated in. Originally, I didn't know where I was going or what was happening. Things were happening. It was good. And then I became more aware that we go into that. And a woman recently said to me after a session, you're going to think I'm mad. And I had to coax it out of her. She didn't want to tell me. And she said, there was beings with me. There was feminine beings with me. And I said, I know that not everyone realizes that, but they're with us. We're protected. It's safe. You know, whatever goes on in this space is safe. We're protected. So, but I think a big part of it is about very gradually trusting that, you know, and re-engaging with that warrior energy and spirit that I'm able for this. I chose this. I'm strong enough for this. And rather than feeding that fear or terror, to engage the warrior and engage the heart energy and the love, and great things happen. You know, that those things can't feed off love or light or being raised or chakras opening or any of this.
Yeah.
So it can be frightening, and I still have my own encounters that sometimes are quite dark and quite heavy. But then I realize and I remember and I reconnect. I'm safe. I'm protected. I'm able for this. I'm strong enough for this. And more and more, I think it is about it. Part of my message, I think, is to remind us and remind myself that we are great. We are incredible. We are so powerful. And I don't even know what those words mean, and I don't know how powerful we are.
Yeah.
But not that we're food for the reptilians or things to attach and feed off us and, oh my God, what am I going to do? Please remove these things from me. I don't remove things from people. My understanding is that in this group, your higher self as well, you face this and you do your own work to release it. And it's also not in that hour or that session that when we leave, we have to be a bit aware, and bit by bit we learn to be aware of, am I indulging in ego or anger or lower stuff or higher stuff, and how to make peace with that and how to kind of chart a new course and learn a different way of being rather than like everyone else. I hoped that I could drink ayahuasca or go to a shaman. He would remove the things from me and I'd leave and everything would be light and rosy and happy. But that's not my course and that's not what I do. I realize now it's about getting off that old track and we have to engage as well and change our bit by bit, be gentle. Like as I said the last day, a lot of it really is just about, hang on a second, I'm okay. I'm doing my best. I'm not a bad person.
It's okay to be
I'm not
quiet.
evil. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not know, and it's okay to make mistakes. And I think in that, see, if there are dark things feeding, which I think we all have to a degree, if I go, I said the wrong thing to Denny and and people think I'm an asshole now and all this stuff, it may be true, but I'm actually just I'm carrying on down that path. So it cuts off that path by saying, that's okay. Maybe I made a mistake, but maybe people heard something they need to hear, or maybe I needed to be slowed down in what I'm doing, or whatever. And just make peace with that.
Right.
And that begins opening the heart, or making peace. And then I find that we find the higher energy moves from there.
Right.
I ramble a lot, but just to say that what I do say to people is, if you feel I resonate with you, if I might direct people to the website and look at the services. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's not for you. Maybe it will be in 6 months' time. But if you feel there's something in it, we can have a phone call or explore. And
WhatsApp is just on the practical side of things. WhatsApp is a free application, or is it you have to?
Yeah, I think it might be €1 or $1 on an iPhone or an Android.
Okay.
But I do Skype as well. So
Okay.
for people who don't have WhatsApp, I would do Skype.
Okay.
And I'd have a brief phone call, see where the person is, and if they want to go ahead.
And use PayPal?
We check in at the start.
Use PayPal?
I do both. Through my website, there's a schedule. You can book a session, and it's Stripe. I have a terrible memory.
Oh, that's
Stripe.
That's the payment method, Stripe?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I see.
But you can also, for some people who've worked with me on for a longer period of time, they would just text me and say, do you have a session on Thursday? And rather than going through the scheduler, and then they can just send the money via PayPal.
Okay, all right, okay. I see.
And then I suppose there'd be a guided meditation. I talk a person into stillness, and then we would just connect, close our eyes, and see what happens for 10, 15 minutes. And then I would check in on them just to see where they are. Some people would go on a journey. Some people might cry. some people have nothing. They're just restless and they think, oh, nothing's happening. This is useless. But I would say that it's usually in the days after that things start to shift. People could find themselves a bit rocky or emotional or argumentative, or that just something has changed in their energy.
Right.
So after it, I would always say, be gentle for the next few days, nurture yourself, have a bath, do things that make you feel good, and protect yourself, and just see what happens.
Right. So, so mostly English speakers so far. I mean, have you had anybody who's like struggling with English when they interact with you, or have you had any? Like, I'm always curious about that. Demographics, you know. Of
that's a good question. I haven't. Yeah. I've had people from, I wouldn't say all over the world, but different parts of the world. I have one guy now, Ronnie will kill me. I think he's Swedish, but I don't think he's in Sweden. He's in Norway or somewhere like that, and he has good English, but I can tell that he's not a native English speaker. But no, I haven't encountered anyone actually who doesn't speak English.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm always curious about that, because that's one of the motivations for my channel is to get. I'm begging for people to translate, you know, the closed caption, so somebody who doesn't speak English could watch one of my videos and they could read what's going on in their own language, and that's starting now, and I'm all excited about it. And
okay.
So I always ask, you know, about those kinds of things, because it's just so sad that language is a barrier for us, but I think that's changing too.
True.
You know. And that's changing
too.
And
it's true.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool to push that a little bit, because you never know what's out there. You know, somebody come along and go, man, there's this guy, you know, and he only speaks English, but whatever. You know, you figured out some way to work with somebody who doesn't speak your language, or you know, I'm always, you know.
Yeah, I'd feel like I tend to try to support people I work with. So I would, you know, outside the session there would be messages. I would be sending WhatsApp messages or Skype messages, checking in. How are you today? Are you okay? Be careful because you might be rocky. So there would be a lot of follow-up stuff. So obviously with a non-English speaker that wouldn't work. I wouldn't trust Google Translate, but I know that within the session there'd be no need for language. You know, It's just an energetic. Yeah. And I would trust that whatever the person needs on that day, they get.
Yeah.
So,
because a lot of it's not verbal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to work on that. We'll think about that. There might be some. Yeah, expanding the horizons. Wow, this is great, man. I enjoyed this. Very educational.
Great. Yeah. That's. I think that's pretty much where I am. Like, I just felt moved after the last one to talk publicly about it, and I've started recently working with men as well, which I found very powerful, because I was unsure. You know, it felt divine feminine, work with women, but no, it's. I realize now, or I'm ready to that. Some men know, and it's not necessarily an intellectual of like, oh, I have trouble with women, or I have trouble with this or that. The more I carry on, you know, the less you need to know or to have a reason. It's just if you resonate and you feel there's work here, that's enough.
Yeah.
Who cares what we label it? That's kind of irrelevant. You know,
yeah.
Trust your instinct. Yeah. See where it takes you.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, it goes back to the whole verbal question once again. You know, you can cob it up with all kinds of like wordy stuff to explain this and justify that and everything, and that's really, it's kind of superfluous. It's just like dressing, you know. It's not really the meal, you know.
Yeah, I like in a lot of, especially with people that I start with, I went through periods of, you know, we do the session and I'd ask how they were, and sometimes I would know something about them and I would ask them gently in case I was wrong but then at times I kind of thought, I really felt the work is in the work, and there's no need to give you information. But then I also kind of felt, well, this person has paid me and they're looking for me to tell them something. You know, there's that ego pressure of like, I have to send them away satisfied. But more and more I do try to, if I feel that, I kind of feel, listen, let's just trust the work. I'll check in with you tomorrow in the coming days, and we'll see how things are going. And then there's a follow up 3 days afterward, a 15-minute session again. So yeah, things happen on such a different level than the conscious mind that more and more. A lot of my work with people is about grounding people and being in stillness. Be in your body, be in your senses, because especially spiritual people, we want to be,
Ungrounded,
I was away. Yeah, I was up in the clouds and I was with the angels, and I'm kind of going, no, come back to earth. You chose to be here. Let's be in your body and allow your spirit to come through. That a lot of this, it can be just fantasy, or it can be escapism, and in a lot of cases it's not what the person needs to carry out their mission or do whatever it is they're supposed to be here to do. So it's about being stillness, being present. And a lot of us don't like that. For a long time I didn't want to be on the planet. I was depressed, I was suicidal, I was addictive. I didn't want to be here. I hated people, I hated society. And now I'm turning that around to explore gratitude. Just it's like that. It is true, that if we can tap into that gratitude, it doesn't really matter what we have, where we are. Now I know there are people who'll be going, "What about the homeless guy?" or "What about whatever?" But it's like when you're at peace and you realize, everything is okay. There is joy and light in the simple things, the very simple things. And we're such a society that's being driven off into materialism and consumerism and thinking, if I have that stuff, it will complete me. I will feel better.
Fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that. Yeah.
We're now on that journey home to kind of. And I'll talk about it maybe another time with you. It's too much to go into now, but that I've lived in my car for a year, and it's about of making peace with that, and of looking at myself and who I am and what I physically look like and all my traits, and think, no, it's okay. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm not the guy in the magazine or the mansion or the business, but I'm perfect. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it's a journey to arrive back at that place, and you can kind of think, it was always okay. Why didn't I realize this 20 years ago? But you gotta, as Guy Ritchie says in that video, I'll eventually get up. You gotta lose yourself to find yourself. We have to depart from who we are to actually appreciate ourselves and come back and go, no, I'm okay. I thought I wanted all that stuff, and I thought it would complete me. And it turns out maybe it's fun to explore and enjoy and play with, but I'm okay as I am. Right. I don't need that stuff.
Exactly. All right.
Okay.
We're good.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me, Denny. Yeah.
And then we could do a follow-up sometime, and I'll be interested to see what happens anyway, even if we don't do another interview, just to see how things are going. And
sure.
Oh, and I have a message from my wife.
Okay.
She says, tell Gavin that I used to live in either Scotland or Ireland. And she goes, do they like each other? And I go, yeah, I think so. I said, and we talked about the mistake I made when I introduced you last time. I said UK, and I said, oh, that was a sin. And then, but anyway, she's very interesting. She's from the Philippines. In her family, she was the first of the siblings to be born in the United States. All of her older brothers were born in the Philippines. And her father was an Army scout and a survivor of the March of Bataan in World War II. And so we've always gone, when we ever went on a vacation, I always wanted to go to someplace tropical or warm, or it would be what she's called a wife test. We'd go off hiking in the mountains or something, or horsepacking or something that was the antithesis of relaxing, And so I call it vacation, she called it wife test. But she said she just wanted me to mention that to you, that So I asked her, like, well, what if we did a vacation now? Where'd you want to go? She wants to go to Ireland.
Mm.
She wants to go to Scotland,
Okay.
and that's where she wants to
Okay.
go because she knows
Yeah.
she used to live there. That used to be her home,
Yeah.
and it was kind of interesting because when I had a reading once, and in the reading they talked about Jennifer and I being together in a past life, where she was a
Okay.
goddess and I was her brother, and she would use me in ceremonies, and in those ceremonies I would be demeaned and
Okay.
like marginalized, or there was some
Mm.
issue there where she was dominating me in these goddess ceremonies, and
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, what a trip, and that's all I know
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
and so anyway, that maybe we'll have some discovery around that at some point, or maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we'll
Or
just show
I
up.
might bump, exactly. Yeah. I might bump into you here.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Gavin. This is fun. I'm glad we did
Thank you.
this.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. And
You're
so
welcome.
everybody, check out Gavin's website, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Bye bye.